After that, the next stage of her life would involve being sold to America as a sex symbol. That order matters. So many profiles get it backward. They present her chaos as something caused by Hollywood fame, as though the business took an innocent child and ruined her. But the timeline tells a different story. The breakdown happened first. The drinking happened first. The suicide attempt happened first. She was 9, 10, and 12. Her first film credit did not come until she was 13. Hollywood did not create the damage. She entered that world already carrying it. Her family had already taken from her what could not be returned. The industry simply stepped in, found a wounded girl, and turned her into an image. That difference matters because it explains almost everything that came after. Many performers spend their lives trying to escape what fame did to them. Tuesday Weld was running from something older. Fame only threatened to lock it in place and spread it across the whole country. The name. The name that made her unforgettable began with a child's mistake. A young cousin could not say Susan and came out with something closer to Tutu. Over time, that became Tuesday. Then, in 1959, when she was 16 years old, she went to court and legally changed her name to Tuesday Weld. That moment deserves more attention than it usually gets. By 16, she had already gone through a breakdown. She had already become an alcoholic. She had already tried to die. She had already spent years helping carry her family. And then she walked into a courthouse and removed the name her parents had given her. Susan Kerr Weld was gone. In its place stood Tuesday Weld. It was the first major thing in her life that she chose for herself. What makes it even more striking is the kind of choice it was. She could have picked something polished, glamorous, or carefully designed for stardom. That was common in that era. Screen names were often built to sound sleek, bright, and marketable. But she did something else. She chose a weekday. A strange, accidental name. It came from a baby's mispronunciation. She kept the surname of the father who died when she was 3. The father whose old family name still carried status, even after the fortune had faded. But she replaced the first name given to her by her mother. Whatever else that choice meant, it did not feel like a studio invention. It felt personal. It felt like a private correction. It felt like a girl trying, in the smallest way available to her, to claim ownership over a life that had been handled by other people for far too long. The press and the door she closed in 1959. Her screen career began in 1956 when she was 13. That year brought 2 credits. One was the low-budget rock and roll exploitation film Rock, Rock, Rock. The other was Alfred Hitchcock's The Wrong Man. Then came the breakthrough. In 1959, she was cast as Thalia Menninger in the CBS sitcom The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. Thalia was beautiful, distant, clever, and openly interested in money. Tuesday Weld played her with a spark that was hard to ignore. Almost overnight, she became one of the most recognizable teenagers in America. In 1960, she won the Golden Globe for Most Promising Female Newcomer. And right there, at the point where a young actress was supposed to lean into publicity and let the system carry her upward, she made the choice that would define the rest of her career. She closed the door. During that first year on the Dobie Gillis set, the press came after her so aggressively that she cut them off completely. She did not ease away. She did not manage the relationship carefully. She simply stopped cooperating. The effect was immediate, and it lasted. After that, whenever the show was covered, her name often faded from the story. One of the most magnetic performers on a hit series was pushed to the side in the public conversation because she would not play the publicity game. At 16, Tuesday, Weld learned a lesson that many stars spent years discovering. The machine expected access. It expected performance off-screen as well as on it. And when someone refused, the machine responded. She saw that, accepted the cost, and still refused. That decision may have mattered more than any role she ever accepted or turned down. In the era of studios and networks, publicity was part of the system. It built careers. It kept stars in circulation. It turned actors into fixtures of the culture. The magazines wanted your romances, your heartbreaks, your habits, your image, your life. In return, they made you permanent. Tuesday. Weld stepped away from that trade at 16 and never fully came back. From that point on, so much of her life followed the same line. The refusals, the disappearances, the difficult interviews, the long stretches of silence, the vanishing acts. All of it can be traced back to a teenager who had already spent too much of her life being watched. Danny Kaye, who worked with her on the 5 Pennies around this time, captured the strange force she carried in a single line. Tuesday's 15 going on 27. That was the impression she left. She was young in years, but no one who met her thought they were dealing with a normal teenager. Too much had already happened. Too much had already been taken. And by the time fame arrived, she had already learned how to shut the door. The greatest run of refusals in Hollywood history. This is the part of the story that still leaves film historians staring at the list in disbelief. Over roughly a decade, Tuesday Weld was either the first choice or a serious possibility for a group of roles that helped define modern American cinema. And she turned them down. Lolita in 1962. Stanley Kubrick's first choice for the title role was Tuesday Weld. That fact alone would be enough to make her career fascinating. But her reason for refusing says even more than the offer itself. I didn't have to play Lolita. I was Lolita. That line changes the whole meaning of the story. Once you place it beside her childhood, it becomes devastating. A woman who had been sexualized from childhood, who had been drinking at 10, who had tried to kill herself at 12, was offered the role of the most famous sexualized child in modern fiction. She refused because she had already lived too close to that truth. This was not an actress turning down a controversial part because she wanted something better. This was someone protecting the last piece of herself she could still protect. Then came Bonnie and Clyde in 1967. She turned down Bonnie Parker. The role went to Faye Dunaway, and the film became one of the great landmarks of American cinema. Film scholar Foster Hirsch later wrote that director Arthur Penn regretted not getting Weld for the rest of his life. Then Rosemary's Baby in 1968. She was offended that she was asked to test for it. Then True Grit in 1969, turned down. Then Cactus Flower in 1969, turned down. Then Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice in 1969, turned down. Much later, she was also considered for Mrs. Lovett in a film version of Sweeney Todd, a role that eventually went to Helena Bonham Carter in Tim Burton's 2007 version. When you lay all of that out together, the scale of what she walked away from becomes almost unreal. She could have been Kubrick's Lolita, Arthur Penn's Bonnie Parker, and Roman Polanski's Rosemary Woodhouse. Those roles went instead to Sue Lyon, Faye Dunaway, and Mia Farrow, and each became tied forever to film history. True Grit brought John Wayne his only Oscar. Cactus Flower brought Goldie Hawn hers. Tuesday, Weld let every one of them pass. At the time, many people saw this as terrible judgment. It looked reckless. It looked foolish. It looked self-defeating. But when she explained herself in a 1971 interview with the New York Times, the logic behind it was much sharper and much stranger. Do you think I want a success? I refused Bonnie and Clyde because I was nursing at the time, but also because deep down I knew it was going to be a huge success. The same was true of Bob and Carol and Fred and Sue, or whatever it was called. She could not even be bothered to get the title right. Then she gave the clearest explanation of all. It reeked of success. Elsewhere, she said it even more directly. I do not ever want to be a huge star. On the Dick Cavett show, she offered a more relaxed version of the same idea. She said she turned things down because she was married, because her daughter Natasha needed her, and because, as she put it, I retire quite often. That line says a lot. She was speaking about retirement almost like it was a habit, something she drifted into again and again while still young enough to be at the